health section is going to teach you ways of living in healthy ways that aren't simply ways of avoiding pain, craving, or addiction. It's also not going to be about how to achieve pleasure. Health is when we live beyond the current and is the goal in itself, just to be healthy. It's what happens when we take a stand on the path of least resistance and crawl our way to freedom. If we look at what a lot of people try to do that's healthy, on the surface, it can be called healthy, but it doesn't come from a healthy place. In this section, we're talking about healthy living that actually comes from a healthy place. Examples of things that are superficially healthy but don't come from a healthy place are things like getting a six-pack before a beach trip, working your way up in a company so you can exert power, having sex just to convince yourself that you're good-looking, making a good income so that people think you're important, or keeping up with a lot of friends because you fear loneliness, or donating so that other people will think you're kind and generous. These are all very nice things, but still within the current, because they're either done to avoid a bad feeling or seek a pleasure or indulgence. Not for a second would I want to stop someone from doing these things, because after all, they are still nice. But I still want more for you. I want to help you get away from living to escape badness or depending on your achievements to feel okay about yourself. We're not trying to take away from some of the healthier things you do to escape pain, but we do want to help teach ways of reaching even higher levels of health that are far more peaceful. You'll find that the greatest feelings and moments that you ever achieve are when your actions come from a place outside of the current. The types of emotions that come from healthy living and healthy being are the nice and deep feelings, like the ones you get with great empathy and intense connection, tears of joy or fulfillment, the awe of smallness, being overwhelmed with gratitude or humility, the excitement of curiosity, the childlike feeling of wonder, the power that comes from triumph, the freedom that's felt when you find a truth, a deep sense of peace with stillness, or a warmth and protected feeling of security. These are all feelings that are most rich when they come from emotionally healthy living. None of them come from escape, and none of them can be forced. They're all amazing feelings that come up whenever they do, and more often, the more we live in healthy ways. We just discussed how so many healthy things aren't necessarily full health. A lot of people think, well, I want to feel good, so can't I just try to do anything that'll make me happy? To answer this, we need to look at the direction that happiness comes from. There's plenty of research that shows when we chase happiness, we don't ever get it. It's the idea behind why being rich doesn't bring happiness. Those things you think will bring happiness, like money, vacations, or perfect physical health, they certainly help, but they're not happiness themselves. Whenever we do something just to be happy, it doesn't come. We find happiness from the other direction. We find happiness when we do healthy things. We live in certain ways that bring happiness. We don't set out for it. It finds us. Think of the opposite. We can't just be angry. If you want to be angry, you have to live in a way that allows you to become angry. You can't just walk into a room and try to be upset at everyone just because you feel like it. You would only become angry if you actually believe the people there were harming you. And to do that, you'd have to live in an angry way that actually made them hate you and cause you anger. You'd have to be nasty to people, hurtful and arrogant, and show no respect. And if you live in those ways, anger will find you. It's the same with happiness. You can't just surround yourself with happy and nice things and become happy. You have to live in a happy way. Happiness will come much more often with healthy and happy living. We don't want to do nice things because we expect it to make us happy. We want to do nice things because they're nice things. And sometimes those things will bring happiness, and sometimes they won't. Remember, there's no such thing as fair. In fact, even in health, we find suffering, planned and unplanned. What you find is that when you live in a healthy way, there's a deeper sense of stability, satisfaction, and meaning than when you do things purely for pleasure or happiness. You don't want to find a partner so they can make you happy. Instead, You'd want to simply connect more and more over time with a mate who you wanted to connect with. Out of that connection, you'll be sure to feel happy a lot of the time. The more you live in these ways, the more your need to escape from pain becomes extinct. It might be helpful to understand emotional health by comparing it to physical health. They're both practices. Let's run through a few ways of looking at health fitness. The first is that we don't get physically fit and then just stay fit. It's always a work in progress and a practice that's never just done. Second, like with physical health, we can always expect setbacks. Just like an elite athlete can suddenly lose their good physical health in an instant with a car accident or sports injury, emotional health can be challenged by death, unexpected financial strain, or anything stressful. The third point is that health is something where there's always room to learn and do more. If you think that you're at the top of your game, there's always room to get better. A strong man can always get better balance or flexibility. An elite biker will need to always work on back pain that tends to come up. It's the same with our emotional health, where no one person can ever be done learning. This section will help you to push yourself in healthy living and build some healthy processes beyond controlling addiction and give you ways of becoming more emotionally fit forever. But there's no end. It's a practice. You'll be practicing it now and later. Don't wait for anything. You're already in it. Recognize that and start enjoying the journey right now. Sleep is important not just to feel rested, but it helps keep all parts of our body running well. About 1/3 of people don't get enough sleep, and that's usually because you either don't have enough time to get things done during the day, or it's because you can't turn your mind off when it is time to rest. There are, of course, other medical reasons that sleep can be disrupted, but here we're focusing on the most common issue of not being able to turn your mind off. If it's hard for you to sleep because of an overactive mind, there are several ways to break that habit. And please view it as that, a habit. There's no illness that causes an overactive mind. That's just a way of saying your habit is to keep thinking and that you can't usually stop it. The first way to break that is by setting your environment up to help you with something called sleep hygiene. Study after study shows that using good sleep habits can fix sleep as much as even the heaviest medications. So please don't dismiss these without giving them a serious try. These habits tap into our body's natural circadian rhythm and how we lived before we were able to manipulate our environment with things like lights, computers, and TV. Now let's go through the 12 rules for good sleep training. 1. Don't go to bed until you're tired enough to sleep. Whenever you go to bed without being tired, you're of course not going to be able to sleep for a while. Every time you do this, it trains your body that the bed isn't just for sleep, it's also a place for using up time to think until we get tired. We want to train just the opposite. 2. If you aren't asleep after 20 minutes, then get out of bed for a few minutes and try again. Whether you're tired or not, you want to keep doing this as a way of teaching your brain a lesson. It's like saying to yourself, look, if you keep laying around thinking, then I'm going to just have to ask you to leave the room. And just like a child or dog you're trying to discipline, you have to follow up on this and be consistent with it to expect your brain to get the lesson. 3. Have rituals that help you relax before bedtime. This can be anything as long as it helps slow or calm you down. It could be reading a book, or a shower, or stretching, or meditation, anything that slows your mind down. It really all depends on what it does to you. If it's a show or book that works you up, then that's not good. But if that show or book helps draw you down and makes you feel tired, then great. Pay attention to what kinds of things can calm you down and create a ritual so that you teach your body to get ready for sleep when you start the routine. It works for babies, and adults are no different. 4. Establish a regular daytime schedule. The most important part of your daytime schedule to keep is your wake-up time. Keep that consistent. Try to wake up at the same time, even if your schedule changes. Our bodies are built to follow a natural rhythm with cues from light, activity, and meals. The more you have a consistent flow of these, the more you give your body a chance to settle into a rhythm. 5. Establish a normal nighttime schedule. Try to start your nighttime routine around the same time each night. Just like you might set an alarm clock for the morning, feel free to do that for a time in the evening too, and consider using some kind of reminder to start your bedtime routine. 6. No napping, unless it's about less than 20 minutes. Little cat naps are okay, but once your naps are long enough, you start to teach your body that it's okay to sleep in the day or night. If you start to nap regularly during the day, you'll learn that rhythm and your body will be trained to split its sleep into day and night, so you'll actually have less drive to sleep at night. Then you get into a vicious cycle where it's hard to start sleeping at night for the full night again, because you need to unlearn your napping routine. 7. Use the bed only for sleep and sex. Doing homework, bills, or chores in bed is another way of training your mind that the bed is a place for work too. If you've made the bed a place to get work done, then you've made it really hard on yourself to think of the bed as a place for rest and turn your mind off. Even if you have a small place, pick another spot in the room or even the floor to think or do chores. 8. No caffeine, cigarettes, alcohol, or strenuous exercise too late in the day. If you've never had problems with sleeping after evening coffee, cigarettes, or exercise, then don't worry about this. But most people need several hours to come down from caffeine, nicotine, or a lot of activity. It takes 10 hours for half of the caffeine we drink to leave our body. Give your body enough time to wind down. With alcohol, it's not about having time to wind down, but having enough time to clear the alcohol. Whenever it leaves our bodies, it produces a mini withdrawal. If you drink before you sleep, that mini withdrawal happens in the middle of the night and actually can wake you up or interrupt deep sleep. This is why drinking yourself to sleep never really helps get good rest. 9. Don't go to bed too hungry or too full. Our digestive system likes to usually be right in that sweet spot of feeling satisfied but comfortable heading into bed. 10. Use sleeping pills with caution, or better yet, not at all. Most sleeping pills don't help you get into deep sleep anyway, and studies haven't shown that they work that well in the long run either. The downsides are that the heavier sedatives have been associated with shortened lifespan, early dementia, higher rates of accidents, and sometimes very serious issues with sleepwalking or getting hurt or into trouble with the law. It's better to try and use sleeping aids for just a few days or a couple weeks at a time if you really need to. 11. Try to deal with worries before bedtime. Bedtime is meant for bed, but too often it's the only time we use to slow down and have time to start to plan the next day or figure out what we need to do. If that happens, try to set some time aside earlier in the day to do this. If you need to do it at night, try to do it standing or in another room. And if you have chores and planning on your mind, get a pad of paper next to your bed to write tasks or ideas down so that your mind knows you've taken note and it can't forget about it now. And 12, keep the room dark, quiet, and cool. Temperature really helps to regulate sleep, and we now realize it's more important than we thought before. We used to sleep better as a species when we lived in the wild, falling into good sleep patterns when the sun went down and it got cooler. We need to recreate that. A warm shower can help to tap into the body's old pattern of getting tired when it shifts from warm to cool. And last, don't forget the easy things. For noises and light, try out either earplugs or blindfolds. Here are a few other methods to get to sleep if those still don't work. Light therapy. Light therapy helps to regulate sleep by setting the tone early in the day and getting strong light early in the day. The studies support getting about 30 minutes of 10,000 lux, full spectrum light, as soon as you get up in the morning. You can get these at regular stores or online pretty easily. Even though this isn't a medication, check with your doctor before doing this, since conditions like bipolar can be triggered by light like this. Sleep restriction. If you spend a huge amount of time awake in bed, you can teach yourself to make better use of your time in bed by only giving it a limited amount of time to sleep. Just like if we have a ton of time to do a project where we procrastinate and wait till the last minute to do it, sometimes giving ourselves less time to do something forces us to make the most of that time. One way to get started is just give yourself a 6-hour window to sleep and gradually increase that time only when you're sleeping for nearly all of it. If you want to get serious about it, I recommend getting a sleep therapist. They'll help you log the sleep you're getting on average and usually start by only giving you that amount of time in bed to start, even if it's just a few hours. The next one is paradoxical intent. This is a good approach if you tend to really pressure yourself to get better sleep and get so frustrated that becomes the reason you don't sleep well. With most things in life, the harder we try, the better we get at something. It's the opposite with sleep though, where the more we try, the more difficult it is to sleep. With paradoxical intent, the idea is to trick our minds. Pretend you don't want to sleep and see if you notice a shift that takes some pressure off. Have you ever started to fall asleep when you knew you weren't supposed to, but felt just too tired to resist it? See what it feels like if you try to stay awake, maybe noticing the urge to sleep grow, or feeling your eyes get even heavier as you try to resist sleep, pretending you want to stay up later. The last one is simple reassurance. We often get exaggerated or distorted thoughts of what'll happen if we don't get enough sleep, like getting fired or getting sick or not performing well for something. The reality is we can perform fine on very little sleep, especially in the short term. Your body won't get sick and deteriorate from a short span of bad sleep. Even though being tired can be painful, carrying the confidence that it's usually just a sluggish but okay feeling the next day helps to depressure the sleep. It's also very helpful to know that even just laying down and resting is extremely helpful. So take some comfort in knowing that as you lay there, it's still restorative. The brain waves will change even just by laying down. If your frustration with insomnia makes it even harder to sleep, do yourself a favor and just be tired, not tired and frustrated. It's very common after a long time of unhealthy living to feel like you've wasted time. And so much so that the frustration of wasting time is its own problem. Now's your chance to think about what it is you missed out on. To think about this in a constructive way, don't think about how much time you've wasted. Instead, think about the opportunities and experiences that you wasted or let pass you by. Most of us live a reactionary life, which is the kind of life where we wait for life to happen to us, then we react. This might look like taking a job because it has an opening, rather than going after a job you actually want. Or it could be starting a romantic relationship with someone who is interested in you, rather than going after someone you're attracted to. Don't go through life by just reacting to what comes your way. With self-reflection about what we value and applying goals to them, we can start to live a proactive life. This means going after the life you want and not waiting on the sidelines until you're asked to do things. Begin to think about life as a series of opportunities rather than simply time. For example, if you're 40 and you feel like you've wasted at least 10 years from unhealthy habits, think about the experiences and opportunities you wanted and didn't grab. Sometimes things you've missed are gone, like people who passed away, but most of what we're looking for in life is ready to be grabbed by you at any point. If you measure the number of meaningful conversations with family, you may have only had a dozen over the last 10 years, but you have the opportunity to have that amount in just the next month. You can't change the past, but you can still work to grab the moments you want and change your future. Even if a loved one is gone now, who is in your life that you can love now? Grab it. You can love and reconnect or connect as many times as you let yourself. You can have a life's worth of opportunity in a short amount of time. I've met people who feel they've connected better with a parent in one intensely connected moment than a lifetime of meaningless and poorly connected conversation. That's an opportunity they had missed and then grabbed, not an issue of time. Thinking about life as a series of moments, events, and opportunities is a good way to guide ourselves. Thinking about what we regret or feel like we missed out on is a great way to learn what we care about and that we want to live for. Boredom is quite double-edged. So much of our lives are built around creating routine and safety and structure so that we can work towards doing things like maintain relationships, build savings, get promoted, get better at a skill, choose a home or city that's in a safe, protected place, or have friends that can be consistent and reliable. These are all very healthy things that help achieve some level of certainty and predictability. We all want and need a great amount of certainty about major things like money, safety, and friends. At the same time, even though we like to create security and routine, we all get bored by building too much certainty and routine. Even with nice things like stable relationships or a good routine at work, It can get flat out boring when we know just what's coming every day and every weekend. This is when we start to feel stagnant and antsy and even irritable or depressed from the boredom and routine. The flip side is that we all love new and exciting things, like new people or ideas or jobs or new places. But at the same time, we often get very frozen or anxious by the very things we want. We have a love-hate relationship with security and certainty. Healthy living usually creates routine, but then we end up not wanting to keep it when it gets too boring. The reality is that it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be a choice between a boring, healthy routine or exciting uncertainty. It's actually our routine and security and certainty that allow the crazy in us, the risk-taking part of us, the part of us that wants to grow and experience the world and learn and create. Sure, if your routines stop there and don't lead to excitement, that's terribly boring. Routine is meant to be the foundation for growth, new things, and excitement. We build a strong base through routine and discipline, not for the sake of more routine and discipline, but so we get to a space that we can get out of our routine and not within that discipline. We need a good deal of certainty and safety in order to get out and do the things we want that are less certain or safe. We need routine and safe enough friends that we feel comfortable enough to share things we feel uncertain about. And we need the certainty about a safe neighborhood to do less certainly safe things, like walk around late at night. And we need the certainty of income to be able to do financially risky things, like start a side business or invest money. We need amazingly good physical health to push our bodies and do strange or new types of sports and physical activities. We need a very stable family to allow business trips that don't break the family. If you want to be an amazing breakdancer, how are you ever going to have a chance at that? You better have support from a very routine group of friends. Create time with a steady schedule that you can make practice or meet people regularly. You better make enough money in a job that you can afford the time to do it and still pay rent. You better take care of your body well enough that you aren't getting injured from being high or miss practice because of withdrawal. When we go straight for the new and fun without a base is when we're in trouble. Those are times like when we want to gamble before we have money, or when we try to do a strenuous workout before we take care of a joint that needs rehab first, or when we take our own time away from family before creating enough support for them to be okay without you. When we go for the new and fun before we have certainty and routine and discipline, then we end up failing. To be able to push ourselves in new areas, grow, and take any risks, we need to do the so-called boring things, form a boring foundation. A strong and certain base isn't in the way of more exciting things. It's why you can pursue larger, crazier things. Discipline and certainty then become wanted, loved, and respected when it's seen as an opportunity for new and different. Certainty is uncertainty's best friend. Here's an honest mental trick you can play at any time. If you're on the right path, you're already done. Trajectory is everything. If you have the right process in place, then you're already there. At that point, it's just a matter of time. Don't measure life by achievements, but rather by trajectory. If you're trying to stop smoking pot, don't just measure whether you've stopped or not. Measure which direction you're going with. If you're using less and less as the weeks go by, then you know you already have the winning process in place. All you need to do is just keep doing what you're doing. Don't abandon your method that's already working, and don't judge it as not working just because you haven't totally quit yet. If a sports team is improving its record each year, then it should keep everything going, even if it isn't winning championships yet. If it stays on a path of getting better each year, then it probably will win eventually. There's also a danger in only judging ourselves based on the end goal, because we can trick ourselves into thinking we're okay if we meet the goal, even if we're not okay. I've seen plenty of people who are sober and think they've met their goal, only to be a ticking time bomb to relapse because their lives weren't moving in the right direction. I have much more confidence in patients who aren't sober yet, but as the weeks go by, their lives continue to slowly move in the right direction, getting healthier friends, finding better purpose, becoming more comfortable talking about their pain, coming to terms with their past. That's a winning trajectory. That's the kind of patient that's actually already there. They just need to let time take its course and do its thing. Those are also the kinds of people that start to recognize when their sober peers are a relapse waiting to happen. As they say, slow and steady wins the race. Once the right process is in place, you're gold. You also don't need to wait until you know just what you want to do in life. Life is going to change all the time anyway, and your interests and friends will change over time too. If you start moving in a direction, your purpose and path will find you. For example, if you were a music producer, you might start out focusing on the sound of the music, only to find out later you shift that towards an interest in how to deliver music to more people, only to find that changes again to learning about how to make the internet and apps more user-friendly to find good music. You'll find yourself over time, but you have to get several efforts moving together before you can get there. This makes life fun again, but more importantly, life becomes more meaningful. When you can start to view yourself in part of a larger journey, everything you do takes on more meaning. Life isn't just random and arbitrary anymore. You know what you're trying to do with yourself, even if that changes. What you do now is connected to the future you, and every choice you make matters because it's a part of you that will live tomorrow, and in a month, and in a year. You can start to notice all the tiny things you do each day and recognize how they connect to the larger you that's trying to do something. You can even pretend you're the young you right now, talking to the older you later, letting it know what you're trying to do. You can imagine needing to report to your older self and your older self holding you accountable. We want to always believe that we're helping ourselves and figuring life out on our own. But the reality is, we need help and guidance just about everywhere. I'd like to think I figured out how to survive in a forest, but I depend on things made by companies that know better, and I rely on knowledge passed down on how to seek shelter or start a fire. I've never really done anything on my own. I've just found my own way by getting help all over the place at every step. We can think we're getting help on our own, but even when we read, we're getting the help of an author who put a lot of time into learning and then organizing information. Or with this program, you're sitting there on your own, but you're getting guidance through a bunch of lessons and activities. When we don't have a guide, we get lost trying to figure it out on our own, or we don't even know what we need to learn. We can always grow, and growth is really just learning with guidance. Examples include school, reading, self-help, therapy, experience through work or friends, religion, mentorship, or a family friend. I can't recommend a formal mentor strongly enough. It's one thing to get help from people here and there, and another to formally ask someone if they can take on that role of being a guide you can turn to. Letting them know helps them recognize that you trust them and respect them, and it becomes clear to them that you're looking for guidance. They realize you'll be listening to them differently than just as a friend. They also can recognize that it'll be an ongoing mentorship, not just random conversations here and there. It's helpful to have a general life mentor who's older and someone you look up to and that you greatly respect. The more respected that person is to you, the more you'll tend to agree with their guidance and understand it and believe in it. One of the best ways I can define emotional health is that it's an act of self-love. If you look at an arrogant person, they usually say they love themselves a lot, but that's actually a front for the insecurity they have and the void of self-love that they truly have inside. And if you look at a depressed person, they often don't grab hold of life or move forward because they don't love themselves fully. Depressed people have low self-worth and don't feel deserving. But when we can love ourselves fully, our behaviors stay on the healthiest course possible. When we fully accept and love ourselves, we care enough about ourselves to do well, eat well, exercise, learn, give, and everything that follows. We can lock into health if we happen to be in an amazing environment to be emotionally healthy, and if we happen not to get injured or develop health issues. But usually, Luck with health only goes so far, and most of us only respond to challenges to our health when we can love ourselves. If we don't care for ourselves enough, then we don't respond to our own needs and pains with help and kindness. We neglect ourselves and put other people's health before our own. If we love ourselves, we do care enough about our own health. That might mean going to the doctor or a therapist, or doing this program like you are right now, or asking friends for help. It's so common in addiction to allow pain to continue because you feel like you're a bad person or undeserving. And if you've dragged out your addiction, it also hurts other people, which makes you feel even less deserving. Letting ourselves slowly go with poor health is a passive form of self-harm, which is certainly not self-love. True love is acceptance as one is. We usually think about this for other people, but here we're talking about true love for yourself. If you love and accept yourself truly, you'll shed away anything unhealthy, because the loving part of you won't stand to let unhealthy things happen. We all deserve peace, love, and acceptance no matter what. Feel free to doubt your behavior or choices, but don't doubt yourself in your existence or that you deserve peace. Treat yourself like you would want to treat a child. If a child does something wrong, you would want to recognize it and try to either discipline them or help them. But that doesn't mean you stop loving them. You might get very frustrated with the child, but you'd be silly to tell them you don't love them anymore for it. A parent might even kick their own child out of the house if it comes to that, but that still doesn't mean their love changes. In fact, when we love a child fully, we actually see that we need to do the tough things and follow through on discipline, or let them know that they're out of line. That's what tough love is, where the toughness is coming out of love and wanting to help, not from a place of hate. We can do all this with ourselves. Love yourself while you also call out what's wrong. Don't wait until you're done fixing everything wrong about you in order to love yourself. That day will never come. I've never met anyone even remotely approaching perfection, which is only an imagined concept anyway. I'm not going to wait until close people in my life are more perfect in order to love them. We also shouldn't do this with ourselves either. Approach yourself with respect and kindness, and the unhealthy part of you will respond much more. What if I told you there was a medication that could give you purpose, meaning, self-worth, and help create connections? The act of giving is the closest thing we have to that magic pill. We like to believe that just giving itself is what helps us, but in reality, it helps us through so many mechanisms. Giving gives us purpose and meaning by reminding us that our acts are noticed, appreciated, and matter to the world. It helps create connections by forming bonds with the people you help, and also with other people that are giving with you, that probably share the same values. It's a way of connecting in the world in the best way possible, which is to make the world around us better than we found it. It also confirms self-worth by proving to ourselves that we have something to offer the world. It also reminds us that no matter how hurt or ill we are, we always have something we can give that other people don't have. We see with our own eyes that we're not alone in suffering, and that suffering is common to humanity in some way or another. As we get closer to people who need our help, we often begin to see bonds and similarities that we might not have seen before. A middle-class person can learn from someone in greater need how easily they went from a secure place with a job and family to nothing after a divorce and then a flood. I remember being humbled by a homeless guy I worked with who had been a big-time executive just years before. Those are all things we get back in the act of giving. And you can see that with all those things happening all at the same time, you can't help but feel better. Giving is not when we do something in exchange for something else. That's called trade or barter. If you give so that you can deduct it from your taxes or so that you can impress someone, that's still a great choice and very kind, but it's not the kind of giving I'm talking about. The type of giving we're talking about here is the act of giving something or giving time or expertise or support only for the purpose of giving. What is okay is if you're giving to feel better. This gets into a philosophical debate around altruism, which we won't get into. But I believe giving so that you can feel better about yourself is a wonderful effort. And studies do support that giving is one of the healthiest things we can do. People who give are always healthier than those who don't. Unfortunately, so much of Western culture is about building wealth and creating our own things, which can be just the opposite of what's emotionally healthy. One of the greatest things you can give that really tests your willingness to give is love. We can give love out to whoever we choose. And when we love someone truly, we don't expect them to do anything back. We love because we just want to give our love to that person. It's not conditional on whether or not they return a favor. If you're ever giving and it feels like a chore, know that that only comes when you're expecting something from it. Maybe expecting that they'll notice how nice we are, or hoping to impress a friend when you tell them about it. A true act of giving can't be a chore because there's no purpose to begin with. We may think we're doing dishes for a partner just because we want to be nice and give, but how often do we get upset if we're not told thanks, or if they don't do something nice in return, or if they don't accept our apology after we do the dishes? If you get upset, what that shows is you weren't really doing it just to give, but actually as a form of work in hopes of a return. That's an expectation of trade, not giving. If it feels like a chore, ask yourself what you may secretly be hoping to get from it. And then you could try the giving again without that expectation, or try giving something else where you actually won't want anything in return. Giving is something you can do in small and quick ways. Don't wait until you have a huge amount of free time or money to give away. Start thinking about tiny acts that you can do with just a minute of your time, and you'll start to notice how easy it can be. Spirituality can mean a lot of things. Everyone, whether they're aware of it or not, struggles with deep, age-old questions like, who am I beyond my body and my name? Why am I here? Why is anyone here? What's the purpose of life? These are questions we generally will never find the answers to, but that doesn't mean we don't spend a lot of thought and energy around trying to figure them out. You might be stuck or confused spiritually if you had enough of a rough life that you wonder how a higher power could let that happen, or what the point of life is if things keep going wrong. People also get spiritually stuck if they get spoiled or life is too easy. Life can feel really empty and purposeless when you don't really have to do anything to get by. While I can't and shouldn't begin to answer these age-old questions for you, some guidance on how to think about them in a healthy way can be really helpful. Even without great clarity, finding at least a bit more clarity can help you to discover your true self more fully and figure out your best guess as to why and how to live. Of course, religion does give answers to all these questions. We're going to go through these spiritual questions from a secular, non-religious perspective that's purely psychological. Spirituality can be vast and deeply practiced with or without religion, and they can be independent of each other. You don't necessarily need a higher power or culture or tradition of a religion in order to address the questions of existence or find meaning and connection. If anything we go over conflicts with your religious views, simply listen to it as a psychological perspective and do with the information what you choose. If you do draw on religion for spiritual direction, I definitely encourage you to consider seeking guidance from your place of worship for more particular help. We'll go over the key areas that help guide spiritual growth. Those are finding connections, finding a way to live, finding meaning and purpose, and finding yourself. We always want to feel like we matter, that decisions we make and things we say mean something. Connection is about recognizing how everything in the world interacts and matters to each other. It's funny for me to think about how small babies actually don't realize that they're different and separate from their surroundings. It actually takes babies a while for them to figure out that they're their own person. But babies seem to be born knowing something profound, that we really are connected to all things all the time. We're all part of the world's ecosystem, not fully separate from each other, ever. It's a very cultural concept to start to think of the self as entirely separate from the rest of the world, that we can live in the way we want as if it won't affect anyone or anything else. We want to believe that we can build a house on a piece of land and it won't affect the animals that live there, that we can grow a business and not have it take other people's business away, that we can isolate ourselves and it won't let anyone down. You can see how the mind very much wants to believe we can do what we please without affecting other people. Why does the mind want to believe this? 2 reasons. One is to avoid guilt or blame, and 2, because we never learned connection. Let's look at the first reason, that we want to avoid guilt. If we believe there's no connection between ourselves and the world around us, it gives us a free pass to behave in selfish ways since it doesn't affect anyone else. Of course, a small child knows this isn't true. Everything we do affects the world around us. Even walking kills bugs by stepping on them, feeds bugs that bite you while you're walking, or sets neighbors' dogs off barking, or gets noticed by neighbors who might be inspired to get outside too. Who knows? If you buy a $2 toy, you're fueling an entire cascade of events, from the factories that make them, to the families that can eat because they're supported by that factory, to the companies who sell machinery to them, all the suppliers, and all the lawyers and engineers who were consulted, to the delivery systems by ocean and truck, and all their drivers and support staff, the port authorities, the store you went to, and that store's cleaners and stockers and cashiers. Every decision you make touches several people, who are then changed and go on to touch several other people. Trying to pretend we aren't connected can help us avoid guilt and blame for hurting others, but once we pretend we aren't connected, it also hurts our ability to recognize the nice ways we're connected. Don't be afraid to recognize all the ways you're connected. Yes, you might feel some guilt, but you'll also find intense and profound connection in beautiful ways too. Now let's look at the second reason our minds believe we aren't connected to our surroundings. Because we never learned it. This happens all the time when we're growing up, at a young stage when we're trying to figure out how much we affect others around us. If you were a child who got into trouble, or did well but it wasn't recognized, or maybe you never got disciplined, you begin to learn that your actions don't really matter. You learn that if you do good or bad, it goes unnoticed, and the world goes on as if nothing happened. This teaches you to disconnect with your surroundings and feel isolated in your efforts. The reality is that you are affecting the world around you all the time. If I scream at my friend, he might ignore me, but that doesn't mean he didn't hear me. If we feel like we're not connected and don't matter, life is empty. Detachment from our surroundings leads to a less meaningful existence. You can be the greatest person in the world, but if you don't feel like it matters to the world, then forget it. Humans don't function well in a vacuum of space. Connection is something we never need to force because it's already there all the time. We just have to open our eyes and recognize what's already there. A breath of fresh air comes from the plants and gets swirled around by the air. A bite of an apple comes from a tree where farmers and machines grew them, sold by a cashier who you're helping to support, and it's full of juice made from water from oceans and lakes. The fact is that connection is much simpler to find and understand than we make it out to be. Sure, you can get as deep as you want with the idea of connection, but start with what you already know to be true. We already know that our things and our actions are connected in some way to everything on the planet. Appreciate what's right in front of you before you look for connections you aren't even sure about. Please connect with a higher power if you wish, but also look around you at the people praying with you and appreciate the connections you have with them. Notice all the ways you might be connected, like rooting for the same sports team, sharing the same values, helping each other, sharing the same city and roads. Also, be open to finding connections that aren't obvious, like an interest in the same music or favorite foods. Connect with the feeling you get being in the same room as a bunch of people all looking for religious guidance. We need to always be open to connection, not force it. If you're open to it, connection will find you because it's everywhere. I've never met anyone who decided to sit down and think about their purpose and come out with an answer. It's not something we can just try to do. We find purpose in the same way as we find a way of living. We move through life in a way that's curious and open to discovering what moves us. You can't figure out just by sitting and thinking that your calling is to be a musician. Instead, someone figures that out first by picking up a guitar and loving it, then jamming with friends and loving that, then playing with people more and more and getting curious about music theory. Eventually, that person comes to discover that they love performing and put a lot of their life energy into that. There's no way they could have just known by sitting and thinking what they wanted to do. So do you just go through life and wait for your purpose to hit you? Sort of yes and sort of no. Yes, you do just allow yourself to go through life and experience those things. But no, because you still need to listen closely to yourself in order to recognize when you're right in the middle of your purpose. Let's look at an example of a guy going out to find a girl. First of all, if he sets out that evening determined to find a girl, he'll probably get more desperate or awkward and actually either ruin his chances or end up with a bad match that he forced. That's true of our purpose too, where if we try to find purpose quickly, we're more likely to scramble and end up picking something that's not really the best fit. Next, let's look at what happens if that guy goes through life just waiting for a girl to find him. True, he may be patient enough to find a girl who's a great match for him, but he's got to be aware enough to recognize when he finally finds the girl of his dreams. So the best balance is to patiently go through life, but keep your mind open and check in with yourself if what you're doing is a purpose you love. If it feels good, follow that. If it doesn't feel like your purpose, keep moving on. The next very important point is that finding your meaning and purpose in life is usually not so clear. What you call an interest might be your own way of saying purpose. Or if you say, I love to blank, those might be the words you use to explain your purpose. And purposes can change several times over your life. When you were younger, having lots of friends might have been your purpose. Later, it might have been being close with friends or with a mate or just a few friends. And later, it might have been to get an education or start a passionate career. We hear people talk about their life purpose as if it's just one thing and stays the same. In reality, it changes, and there can be several. I'd like to think my purpose is to love my family, but I'd also like to think that following my dreams with my career is also my purpose. That's fine. Nobody said you had to pick just one purpose to have forever. Break out of the idea that it has to be that way. It's much simpler than that. Just go out and be you. Notice what makes you tick and spend more energy doing those things. If you had this exciting hope I'd tell you your purpose in life in a simple lesson, I'm sorry. But if you notice that, ask yourself what that tells you. Are you desperate to find purpose? Are you waiting for someone else to decide your purpose? Do you trust another person's suggestion of what to do with your life more than your own idea? If you're waiting to find your one purpose in life, you'd better get comfortable waiting. Odds are, you're already doing some things that are your purposes. The trick is to being open to that and feel valid in what you already know. Your purpose might be right beneath you already. Many people at some point learn to tolerate emotions in healthy ways and find new social groups or ways of connecting, and so their addictive behavior becomes much safer and controlled. At that point, people naturally consider going back to their addiction again or using something else for an escape that they consider milder. It would be true that after a year of sobriety, your chance of relapse is greatly reduced, and after 5 years, your chance of becoming addicted again is about the same as any average person's risk of becoming addicted. While this in itself may make sense and be encouraging, the core question is going back to an addictive behavior worth the risk? If you went to a certain part of a town and got mugged there, your risk of that happening if you went back to the same spot is the same as anyone else's chance of being mugged again. But just because the odds are the same doesn't mean you're not going to be much more cautious or hesitant to go back there. That's because you know how bad it feels to get mugged now. It would have to be very worth it in order to go back to the same spot you got mugged. The same thing happens with abstinence. Now you know what can come from your addiction, and you understand just how hard it is to fight your way to better health. So you can ultimately make that choice better than anyone else. It comes down to handling some level of risk. Yes, you might be able to drink again and not totally lose it. Or you might be able to go into a casino and not blow your month's salary. But you know now just how badly that can hurt if you don't maintain control. Is that a risk you're okay with? How much are you willing to take a chance of it getting out of hand again versus the fun or momentary connection and momentary escape from pain? Also consider that abstinence on a deeper level is a form of self-love and commitment. If a guy wants to hang out with an ex-girlfriend in front of his new spouse, it might be okay, but that does two things. It's not just a risk that the ex will get in the way of his new marriage. More importantly, it's a risk of hurting his spouse's feelings since it could signal a lack of commitment, that he's willing to enjoy another momentary connection with his ex at the risk of losing his wife's trust. The lesson in that is that if we go back to casual use of drugs or alcohol or some other risky behavior, it's like telling the healthy part of you that you're not fully committed to healthy living. It can erode the effort a bit. Look at sobriety as a form of self-discipline that reinforces the meaning of it. It's a commitment, and any commitment requires sacrifice. That guy could likely get by with seeing his ex and not cheat and have his spouse still trust him. But how beautiful would it be if he displayed a level of love and commitment by choosing not to invite the ex back? By showing his wife that another fun time with her isn't worth even a 1% chance of an argument or distrust. A commitment is something you do because you want to, not because you need to. It's a giving up of something momentary for longer-term health. If you decide that the odd recreational use is okay for you, please don't feel like you're a bad person, but rather take it just as it is. It's a signal that you're not currently willing to make that level of sacrifice. Maybe you will one day, maybe not. But that won't depend on whether you're a good or bad person, or have strong or weak willpower. It'll depend on the environment you're able to create. If the cravings are there, or if you find yourself addicted again, learn from it. It may mean you want to be included with certain friends so badly that you turn to it again, or that you don't love yourself enough to care, or that your patience is running low, or you're not identifying slow and subtle gains that you are making through good health. Simply learn from what you notice. When we bring our capacity to a higher level in one area, it automatically means you'll reach higher levels in other areas of your life too. Some of that happens because of a positive feedback loop, where you get better at one thing and it makes the other parts easier. But this is about more than just that. When we reach new heights in one area of life, it usually makes us do other nice things to support that new height. If you work out intensely and that's your new higher capacity, it demands that you also eat and sleep better, and even plan out your day better in order to make that happen. It's actually hard to raise your capacity in one area without making other areas of life come in line too. This is why studies show that exercise helps people quit smoking more than by directly addressing and trying to stop smoking. Smoking becomes such a nuisance to someone intensely exercising that they begin to finally stop smoking just so they can get through their workouts when they want to, or be able to run without coughing and wheezing. So you're not setting out trying to stop smoking, which is really hard and can feel like a real pain. You're trying to exercise, which makes you start to care about smoking. So any area of life that you actually do have motivation and care to get healthier will automatically make you think about other areas of health like sleep, nutrition, socializing, and time management. It makes it all more fun and sustainable. It can be really hard to want to care about sobriety forever. It's much more fun when we're trying to do something else that we care about that automatically makes us sober. If you want to work on trying to be a better partner or find someone to be with romantically, you'll probably want to stop hanging out with bad influences. You'll probably want to take care of your body and look good. You'll probably care about your job and career so you can be a good provider. You might also keep your place tidy and organized, all because you want to be an attractive partner for someone. So it's a relief that you can concentrate on one thing you really do care about, and automatically you'll see other areas of life fall in line. So just start somewhere. Remember, we talked about how in addiction, we're usually focused on results and achievements. That trains you to think about yourself and the world through the lens of achievement. It's that way of seeing the world that can make it so nothing's fun and everything's pressured because everything can always be more or better. Now we're going to talk about how living with a process can transform the way you experience life. Think of content as the what's of life and process as the how's of life. We may live and obtain a bunch of what's, like a certain salary, a certain education level, or a kind of car, or wanting a certain number of friends. That's content. The process explains how we're going to be living, how we get things. Is there a process of saving money? Is there a process of taking time for yourself? Is there a process to learn what you want to know? Is there a process that leads to happiness or calm? Is there a process to meet new people or find people and connect with other people? If you're a team, you wouldn't have a game plan to win. The content or what you're going for might be the win, but the way or how you're going to win is through a winning process. A process would be something like a plan to double team their best player or try to slow down the game by using a lot of time on the clock. If the team only focuses on the content, which is to win, it leads to doing that at the cost of giving the team enough time to rest or see their families. So focusing on the achievement takes them away from the fun of playing and involving everyone's families along the way. Those teams also tend to react to a losing season by firing people. If we instead look at the process of creating a winning team, we see that losses simply are part of the game. If the team lost because their best player was injured or there were a bunch of new players, then the process might not even need to be changed. From the perspective of a process, it's a winning team that just needs time to develop more. A winning team doesn't win all the time, and so too does a winning life plan not guarantee every day is a win. But our minds forget this all the time. We get impatient and expect that if we start living right, that it'll bring us sure success. All we can ever hope for is a good process, but how it unfolds isn't within our control, which is why waiting for all the what's or the content to happen isn't helpful. Another example of this is with friends. It's more helpful to focus on a process where you live in a way that friends like being with you. That's a process. Now, that doesn't guarantee that you'll have tons of friends or that those friends will be there forever. They could move or they could be flakes. But you know you're doing what you can to be a good friend. If you set out instead to go after content, like a certain number of friends, you'll miss the point. If you're just fixed on reaching a certain number of friends, then you might end up forcing relationships that aren't healthy, or you might feel like it's your fault or you're a bad person if you don't have a certain number of friends. A good rule of thumb to help find a process is to imagine what the end game of something is. Ask yourself, what happens if I keep doing more and more of that thing? For example, if you chase trying to make $1 million, where does that lead you? To lie or steal or put work above family or your own health to get there? Maybe to feeling bad if you don't get there, or to wanting even more if you do get there? Or to finding other people who also think more money is the answer? Now look at the end game of a financial process. Maybe a process where you try to make more money than you spend. Where does that lead you? You'd probably want to have a good enough job to support your lifestyle. You might find other people who enjoy saving, but also balance that with making time for relationships. That's a winning process. It doesn't go after the what of an amount of money. It goes after the how. How are you going to earn and spend your money? We can also ask the endgame question of anything else. Chasing content, the what's, usually leads to people feeling empty when they get there, because now there's no reason to try anymore, and because it was never tied to a process. If you get your $1 million, so what? If it was always just a what you were going for, then who cares, because you never knew why you wanted it. There's no end game when there isn't a process. Everything that's tied to a process generally leads to healthier living. You can feel better about making a lot of money if it's tied to the process of earning, maybe so you can give it away or earn enough to take care of your whole family. The team that won because of a process feels good because they know the reward of the win came from a healthy process they stuck to. If you win just because you wanted to win, it doesn't really matter. This is one of the reasons that all the money and houses and praise in the world doesn't help people who just chase the what's or the things in life. Another common example is going for the what of losing a certain amount of weight, as opposed to the process of how, which could be something like eating healthy for most meals. If you just chase a number of pounds to lose, you might starve yourself and lose lots of muscle, or never develop healthy eating habits because starving yourself isn't sustainable. And this is exactly why over 95% of dieters put their weight back on after just 2 years. But if you have a process of learning healthy meals and learning ways to make healthy eating practical, like learning different recipes that fit your time and budget, or planning your meals ahead of time, then you found a process to bring you there. Whatever goals you reach with a process will be more flexible, feel better, and be more sustainable. Instead of doing the whole yo-yo diet thing, or beating yourself up for not losing as much as you want, you'll be able to focus on the process of eating well and learning nutrition. I've helped people lose weight with a healthy process, and they always feel so much better doing it that way than they do with the quick diet plans, because they recognize that their weight loss was a reflection of who they had become as a person, not just a reflection of which meal plan they subscribed to for 3 months. Good processes do actually get you the things that you want, like more money, more wins, more relationships, better physical health, but they aren't why you live the way you do. Instead, those rewards come because you live the way you do. There's a big difference when we get things because of who we are and not just because we chased a number or a result. You might notice that with any of these, processes are never done because they're always a practice. You wouldn't develop a healthy eating habit and then say you're done. You can always learn more about nutrition or new ways to cook. You wouldn't lose some weight and then say you're done eating healthy. The same goes for anything that's tied to a healthy process. If it leads you to better health, there's no end. If you get sober, you're not done. That's not the result. Being sober is your reward for living healthy, but it's not your end result. It'll feel quite empty after a while if that's your only goal. Please don't learn that the hard way, and take my word on that. Let sobriety happen simply as a reflection of reaching a healthier lifestyle and healthier ways of thinking. And it's fine to not do everything well because nobody can do too many things that well. Processes are all a practice, that's all. We practice being a good friend. We practice being a good lover, or a good worker or learner. Don't wait until you're sober to say you did it. Look at your life right now. Be healthy today. Be proud of anything you're doing to practice good health already, and sobriety will find you. It's not a result. It's a reflection of where you are in life. We never finish anything. That's how it's meant to be. That's not frustrating or sad. It's liberating and free. Enjoy that journey. Congratulations on rounding the corner to finishing this program. Now's the time to think about what you're going to take away from this and continue on your own. There's no way to work on everything we've done all the time. Our minds can only hold a handful of focuses at any one time. We don't want to work on so many things at once that we don't actually get much better at anything. If you try to work on everything we've done, plus other nice ideas that other people suggest, plus ideas from all the other things you've read, you'll go crazy. You wouldn't have time to get dressed or go to the bathroom if you worked on every helpful idea. It's time now to create your own commandments. What this means is that you have to pick out the most important challenges and tasks for yourself and practice those. I like to call this a self-religion because it's your own list of values and practices that you believe in and want to live by that make sense to you. This is something that you choose to live by based on the way you understand the world and ways of living that you think will lead you down the path that you want. In the same way religion is a way of holding us accountable to a higher power, sacrificing what we might feel like doing in order to live by certain values, this exercise is a way of doing that with ourselves. It makes us ask ourselves, what do we value? And gives us a way to check in on whether we're really living by those values. The difference is that this is a chance to make it individual and specific to your own journey and list the things you feel like you want to live by right now. Like religion, it also requires a ritual or process to constantly remind yourself about it and to notice when you get off track. I recommend choosing things you can practice daily. It's easiest to run through your list at one time a day and always at the same time, like when you get up or go to bed or before every lunch. If you want to do it more often, you can do it every time you go to the bathroom. As far as the things you put on your list, you can either make those whats, which are content-based commandments, like say something nice to someone every day, or you can make the things on your list commandments that are process-based, that tell you how you want to live, like be kind and respectful. Feel free to be creative, and also feel free to change your commandments over time. Don't change them too often, but it's okay to tweak or change them over time, since your values and goals are going to change as you grow. If you're a young bachelor, your goals are going to be different than when you're a grandparent who's done working. Your fundamental values might be the same, but some of your commandments might be different. Some commandments may be things you can easily do every day, like meditate, or other ones might be things you don't necessarily do every day, but you can at least check in on daily, like a commandment to volunteer. So you may be able to volunteer somewhere once a week, and on the 6 days you're not volunteering, simply note to yourself that you do volunteer and reflect on what that means for you. Or if you want to exercise somehow every day, but you get sick or injured, you might just use that time to reflect on how you feel about your injury when you get to that commandment each day. This isn't just about trying to accomplish a list of tasks every day. It's more about keeping track of your effort and practice of those things. It builds on being mindful about your thoughts and actions and gives you the chance to use the most helpful tools you've picked up on that you want to use. You might have a commandment to talk to a friend every day. Even if you don't do it for a day, this exercise would be a way for checking in with yourself around that. Not to say shame on me for messing up my commandment, but to give yourself the chance to notice. It's a chance each day to run your list and say something like, I noticed I didn't talk to friends today. What's going on there? And then you might notice a few good friends moved away, or you might notice how if you're depressed, you don't reach out to people. It gives you the chance to notice and respond. If you did all your commandments well and every day, you'd be a saint. So it's not about completing them perfectly, but it is about being accountable to yourself and what you want your life to be. You have to report to yourself every day and face your own rules. The ability to notice and respond is everything. It's the mechanism to always learn and improve or stay well. And just like a religion, nobody can take that from you. It's a process or a way of being that belongs in your mind. This also helps as positive reinforcement and motivation. For example, if you're tired of changing diapers for your kid, but every day you're reviewing your commandments and see that you're trying to be kind and patient as a parent, you can take a moment to remember when you're changing diapers that that's why you're doing it. You can connect dull or boring tasks to your values and rules that you know are best for you to live by. So everything you do can be seen as a reflection of who you are and how you want to live. It's a moment to either learn about why you didn't live by a commandment, or a moment to be proud of yourself for living by it. We often have good intentions, but simply don't have a mechanism in place to remind ourselves how we want to live and to notice when we get off path. This is that mechanism. We're coming close to the end of this program, and as we start to wrap up, I want to help you find your next steps in your journey. Hopefully you picked up a lot of helpful information and tools to manage your emotions, compulsions, thoughts, cravings, and several ways of moving forward with your health. Everything you've been working on and continue to work on is a practice. So this never ends, nor should it. So if for a second you think you'll be done with your emotions or cravings or trying to get healthy, think again. And that goes for everything worth trying for in life. Everything that's healthy is a practice. So don't listen to this right now, freaking out that you're not all better and living life fully already. We rightly call my profession the practice of medicine, knowing we never finish learning about health. I'm always in the practice of learning and teaching it, without an end or a checkbox that I'm done. We're never done being a good spouse, or we're never done being a good family member. We're never done being nice. And so we're also never totally done with cravings or poor choices. They're to be managed and worked on. We all practice these things forever. It's really simple. The more time and energy we spend on something, the more automatic that area becomes. And the less time and energy we spend on something, the weaker we become in that area. That's true for learning to speak a language, and it's true for playing a sport. It's true for building muscle, and it's true for sobriety and health too. Our bodies and minds are always getting stronger in areas we work on and weaker in areas that we don't. Please don't complicate the simple science of change with your perceptions that you're broken or too bad of a person to get better. There's no such thing as a living brain that can't adapt and heal. Start to imagine your whole effort to get life on track as a practice, and you'll feel much less pressure to be done with everything already, because nobody ever will be. As we finish this long program with our final couple of lessons, I wanted to leave you with a way of thinking about your addiction in a way that might sum up what it is and where you go with it. If you think about what addiction does, it always does two things. When we go through addiction, we're trying to numb or control our painful state. We control our painful state to be more pleasant. At the same time this happens, we're causing harm and destruction for ourselves and people around us, and being let down when the high runs out. The fact that it both causes pleasure and destruction every time is an interesting one. When we live out this story over and over, psychologically we call this reenactment. We're reenacting this drama or play over and over again, as if we're a Broadway show doing the same show every night. We tell a story to the world about ourselves with everything we do. If we're healthy, it tells a story that we have our act together and we're a careful person who plans for the future. If we're mean, it tells the story that we don't care very much about other people, and the audience can guess that we've been hurt enough times that we don't care anymore. Well, when we're addicted, it tells the story that we want so badly to escape ourselves, but get let down and hurt every time. It reenacts the drama that you've probably been through over and over in so many ways. Maybe you wanted so badly to rely on your parents, but got let down every time, or wanted to trust people, but got lied to, or wanted to turn to a romantic partner for safe touch and love, but got rejected or even molested or abused instead, or wanted to have faith in God, but felt let down or abandoned. It's probably a drama you've been through several times, and in very memorable ways too. Realize that every time you go through your addiction, you're retelling a story about a desire for help, but getting let down each time. There's the never-ending search for the high, the protection, the soothing, only to be followed by the inevitable crash, destruction, shame, and regret. That's why so many people who suffer from substances also suffer from other behaviors that soothe and then destroy, like gambling, risky sexual activity, and excessive shopping. They're all ways of being let down by the outside world that you wanted to think could help, but didn't in the end. This extends to get-rich schemes, supplements to lose weight or bulk up fast, anything where we're promised help, but know it'll probably only let us down after a while. Ask yourself whether your addiction tells this story or some other story about who you are. How you struggle with and handle your addiction is your chance to reshape how you tell your story. To give up addiction is a strong test of how willing you are to give up your current story of what you feel life is like. Are you ready to live a different story that says to other people something like, I can handle or tolerate myself when things get rough. Sometimes people let me down, but I know there are people out there who can be more accepting of me. Giving up the old addiction story and living in a healthy way might not draw as much attention or get you any pity. And what we do with our actions doesn't just tell a story to the rest of the world, but also to ourselves. When we go through endless cycles of instant gratification with soothing, followed by harm, we slowly convince ourselves that we can't get by without it, how badly we need it, and that we can't tolerate suffering any longer, and it's worth the consequences. Every reenactment of this alters our perception of ourselves and how we remember or perceive who we are and how we expect to behave over time. The act of finding a healthier life without relying on something from the outside is to make a strong note to yourself that you're ready not just to tell a different story, but to believe in a different story for yourself. This creates a new chapter in the story. It tells the world the story that while we once did want so badly to soothe quickly and easily, we've come to learn that suffering is a part of life. It says that we accept that our life has been as it has been, and that we now are ready to live a life that says we can rise from desperation and pain to a new place of patience, tolerance, and forgiveness. To live a life that says not only can you do those things now, but that you're finally worth it. The new story says you believe in your ability to find people that won't let you down. Are you ready to change the story you tell through your behaviors? Are you ready to let go of the story you've been telling? All the time you've dedicated to working on yourself. Please thank yourself for all that time and effort, your attention, your compassion that you've been giving yourself. Even if we've never met in person, I thoroughly enjoy knowing that I've been let into each person's life who goes through this program. I'm sorry that you've suffered from addiction, but grateful that it somehow led you to your journey to get more from life. I hope you provide feedback to us so we can keep improving and help the whole community. Every time we get your help making this program better, it helps people around the world you'll never meet. And also, feel free to drop me an email through the website. I love hearing about everyone's experiences. I read every one of them, and that's what makes this fun for me. My dream is for this to evolve over time to set an example of community-led answers to difficult problems. You probably know more now about addiction than most everyone you know. The more of us there are to spread good information, the better we all grow. Right now, there are plenty of misguided laws and treatments and perceptions around addiction. I have faith that'll continue to slowly change, but we can all do our parts and help people understand it one conversation at a time and be a part of that change. I truly hope that you feel you've learned how to become the person you want. Life doesn't need to be miserable. Don't live another day in the shame that you've let society or yourself put on you. And please don't wait on life, because you're already good enough. May your mind be light and free. Please enjoy all these practices and never stop growing as a person. Be well.